They've used our logo. They're streaming now. I just started streaming to explore live events, live chats. EXP Mobile.
105. Hawaiian 105.
The Hawaiian Music Station.
Welcome back to beautiful Waikiki Beach. We're here at the Dukes Ocean Fest, and this is the Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships presented by Access Surf. Kaipo Guerrero along with Rocky Cannon, John Davis, and it's been so far so good. We've had 3 heats this morning, guys. And now, John, we're into the women's sit division.
Women's local celebrity, if you will, the warrior princess Mira Va'a-Duarte. Was up late, not too late.
Welcome back to
playing guitar,
beautiful
singing songs
Waikiki
with her.
Beach.
We have
We're
some of the
here
athletes that
at
love
the
to play
Dukes
and sing.
Ocean Fest.
It's been
And
a
this
neat
is the
pleasure.
Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships presented by
Great to have
Access
her.
Surf. Kaipo Guerrero
Mira
along
this
with
morning,
Rocky
of course, has got
Cannon,
the
John
red and yellow
Davis,
board out there.
and
As
it's
soon as I rock
been
up
so
to
far
the
so
beach, I
good.
just see this
We've had 3
amazing
heats this morning,
awkward
guys.
slash cut back.
And
I'm like,
now,
who's that?
John, we're
And I see her hair. She's got the most beautiful hair you've ever seen. Local
Turn the morning so far.
celebrity, if you will, the warrior princess Mira Va'a-Duarte. Was up late, not too late.
Welcome back to
Playing guitar,
beautiful
singing songs
Waikiki
with her.
Beach.
We have some
We're
of the
here
athletes that
at
love to
the
play and
Dukes
sing.
Ocean Fest.
It's been
And
a
this
neat
is the
pleasure.
Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships presented by Access Surf. Kaipo Guerrero
Mira
along
this
with
morning,
Rocky
of course, has got
Cannon,
the
John
red and yellow
Davis,
board out there.
and it's
As soon as I rock
been
up
so
to
far
the
so
beach, I
good.
just see
We've
this
had 3
amazing
heats this
awkward
morning, guys.
slash cut back.
And
I'm like,
now,
who's that?
John, we're
And I see her hair. She's got the stacked hair. It's going to be a fun local
Turn the morning so far.
celebrity, if you will, the warrior princess Mira Va'a-Duarte. Was up late, not too late.
Welcome back to
Playing guitar,
beautiful
singing songs
Waikiki
with her.
Beach.
We have some of the
We're here
athletes that
happy to
love to play
face
and sing.
Ocean Fest. And this is the Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships presented by Access Surf. Kaipo Guerrero
Mira
along
this
with
morning, of
Rocky
course, has got
Cannon,
the
John
red and yellow
Davis,
board out there.
and
As
it's
soon as I rock
been
up
so
to
far
the
so
beach,
good.
I
We've
just
had
see
3
this
heats this
awkward
morning, guys.
slash cut back.
And
I'm like,
now,
who's that?
John,
And I see her hair.
women.
Mira is just got that aloha on her side. She is a smiling, happy, wonderful person to be around, and I think she's going to channel some of that energy here at Dukes to bring it together for her today.
Interesting, Rocky. Mira's middle name, Va'a. Can you give us a translation on that?
Va'a means canoe. It is actually it's spelled with a V, so it's the Tahitian version of the canoe. And she's got her little one-man Va'a out there right now. But in your frame, that is Victoria Fage in the black jersey from Canada. Tell us a little bit about Victoria.
Victoria is just an amazing athlete as well. She is a skier. Obviously, being from Canada, she has that more winter aspect. And I think the surfing has just been a great outlet for her to just reconnect with the ocean. Great guitar player as well. She led the charge last night, playing a lot of the songs for us. Led
you guys had your welcoming ceremony here at the statue, and it just kind of carried on from there.
You got it. We all got together there, and I've been doing some Skyping with Victoria via Skype just to do some playing music together. We've just been having a lot of fun just with the music side of things as well, away from the surf. So those friendships cross over. Here's Mira Va'a-Duarte.
There's that hair you were talking about. It is very prominent. I can imagine what it's going to look like when she's flying down the line on one of these little Waikiki swells.
You got it. And a lot of these seats, you can kind of see some people have the backrests on their seats as well to give them that little more purchase, a little more ability to not have to rely on the core. Mira has great core. She's looking for more of those high-performance waves that she can lean forward, lean back, and get up into that lip with and use her ability. We have Victoria here on her first wave. This is a nice behind-the-peak section here. She's going to get around it. You can see how the tail gets a little caught on that white water if you let it. She did a great job to regain control, regain that edge, and kick out with control.
So, John, a number of these athletes are multiple sports athletes as far as being adaptive athletes, right? You talked about Victoria, who we just saw. She also has a skiing background. What are some of the other sports that a lot of these athletes participate in? Because I think we have a pretty all-star field here.
You got to catch up on the replay just here really quick. But a lot of the mainstream sports, the basketball, skiing has been around for quite a while. I'm a two-time Paralympic gold medalist myself from '94 and '98, Lillehammer, in Nagano, Japan.
Wow.
So having that opportunity to really have some of these established sports that you can take it to that final limit, that Paralympic Games for these adaptive athletes, is a treat. Surfing is getting there, as we know, even on the able-bodied side, as we see Mira take a scratch here, as we also have Elena Nichols here.
Yep. And Mira on that candy corn is what I'm going to call it.
I like it. I like it. Elena, I would have liked to seen her pull out a little bit sooner from that. Her competitive nature is kind of taken over a little bit there. That priority, Mira, obviously closer to the curl,
Correct.
had priority on that one. You want to make sure that you don't crumble the wave on your competitor. You don't have that interference of any sort.
Well, you know, just to refresh our viewers, the interference rule is in effect, and it is all about how another surfer affects scoring potential of another surfer. So we'll let the judges deal with that one, but you're right, John. You'd like to see a quicker pullout from a surfer on that one, but overall, I think the scoring potential probably wasn't as hindered, and she probably got out just in time, a second more, and it could have been a little more dicey. Here goes
She's right back
Mira
at it.
again.
And Mira as well, that engaging that edge off the bottom. She wants that cut back and bringing that nose of that surfboard all the way back around into the whitewater. The judges love to see that every time. And if you can bounce it off the whitewater and get a sort of that re-entry from the whitewater, it just completes that maneuver that much more. And I think these athletes are looking to complete the maneuvers. They see other people doing them. They visualize them doing. They even feel it when they're just sitting in their chairs. You know, they can feel that energy and of them doing those cutbacks or hitting the lip and pulling those maneuvers off. And I think as their abilities catch up to their visualizations, they're going to start to really progress the sport from a on the women's side especially.
Right. Yeah, it's all about, you know, completing those maneuvers, like you said, the full, complete cut back all the way to the whitewater. We watch a replay of Mira here stroking into a nice little Queen's right-hander and a beautiful bottom turn right there. Almost all you could see was that candy corn bottom of the board and blocked everything else out. That's when you know she's putting it on the rail.
Yes, and you know that when you get these airbrushes, you never know what you're going to get as well sometimes.
I'm just
so,
rolling with that one, man. It's like, I'm just thinking of Halloween all over again.
Exactly. But great calls on that. You want to see the bottom of the board. You want to see some fins showing, whatever you can. It's the same performance criteria that we're looking for on a WSL level, shrunk down to their ability levels here with these adaptive surfers. And like Elena, she has a ton of competitive experience in other sports. Colorado, New Mexico was where she grew up. Surfing's new to her, you know, and as you guys know, surfing is a respectful sport. I learned so much growing up in Santa Cruz from the old school guards, the Richard Smiths and Vince Colliers and Joey Thomases and, you know, the guys that designed my surfboards and that I got to surf, the Pete Mells and everybody. And you learn respect when you're in the lineup. So getting their time in the water now, you're learning respect. And when you have a paddle, you instantly have to respect that paddle because you can do things other people can't do just with the sake of the paddle.
Right.
So really getting that respect, really knowing the lineup, knowing when your turn comes. And
not being a wave hog.
And not being a wave hog. It really, because you can get
a lot of waves if you
a
wanted
lot
to.
of waves, man. And you can, you know. And
it's a great shot of the poster right there. Access Surf, Hawaii Adaptive Surf Championships. Talk a little bit about you know, what it takes for these athletes to train on a daily basis because, you know, they're coming over from other sports, other techniques. Surfing, as we all know, has a very unique feel to it and technique. So some of the training and ins and outs of daily stuff these guys do.
you got it. I'll start with Jeff Munson, who's one of our previously an able-bodied big wave surfer, surfed a lot down in Puerto Escondido. He does long-distance swims in the ocean.
Wow.
Before he even paddles out. Even if the waves are good, he'll take a swim, let's say, and just get his mindset, get used to the water, feel that tide, know the energy, know where to put himself. He has that experience. He has that knowledge because he grew up in the ocean. So just being able to slow yourself down, take that 20 minutes on the beach when the waves are good to not paddle out.
Right.
When you're at home and you're living in Colorado or you're living in New Mexico, I think they're watching Kaipo and the guys on WSL a lot, and they're visualizing. And
well, John, I would imagine the ski to alpine skiing versus the surf ski, there's a pretty good crossover right there, I would believe, you know, just as far as maneuverability and being able to edge. As we look at some live action here, and got a little caught up there. So that's going to be up to the judges. We talked about the interference rule before, and looks like, you know, Alana found some open face there, but there was certainly a challenge with Victoria in front of her. Couldn't pull out of the wave. We'll see what the judges have to say about that one.
Yep, it's all about the scoring potential, and if we get a replay queued up, we'll kind of give our 2 cents of what we could pick out of that situation. Kaipo's been around surf competitions for a long time. I've been competing for a long time. John, you definitely have a lot of competition
Take a
experience.
look at it.
So right there, totally affecting scoring potential. Unfortunately for Victoria, there was just no exit, and she was already committed down the wave. That's when you got to have your peripherals engaged and see if there's anyone behind you. And as you said, it's always a learning experience out there. Every heat, every moment that goes by, it's a learning curve. And you just, those kinds of things, you'll come in, watch and learn, and know that next time, got to have your eyes a little bit more engaged.
Pull it back a little bit. The competitor comes out in
Right.
you. It's to seek together. I like that model than the Brazilian definition, you know, the battle. But that first, you know, minute of the heat, that's when the battle starts. That's when you want to get the priority. That's when you kind of do that, play that game. And
So
gotcha.
we're going to probably take another look at that, but it was impressive on that wave that Alana was still able to arc through a bottom turn and find some open face. Here's the beginning of the wave.
So you see 3 surfers paddling. Mira's out the back, and she almost got into it. And right there, you see Victoria looking ahead and not back. And right there was the crucial time of once you're committed into the wave, if you can't get out of the way in time, the judges will be forced to apply the interference.
A great drone shot here from Mira. You can see that that right sort of shutting down. We'll see if she cuts back left. Sure she does. She knows this way very well, being a local here. But Alana, being that competitor, kind of sold it to her a little bit maybe. That left was sort of, and it's primarily a right here, but you're going to see a lot more of that, as you brought up earlier, Rocky, that that competition piece comes out in people, and there's going to be different levels of competition as these athletes get together.
You know, John, something that's pretty unique to Queens is a term called sweeping the peak. And that means a lot of times you'll see in competition a surfer go left first, sweep that person off the wave, then turn and come back right. It's an old trick. It's been decades of sweeping the peak out here. And Rocky, you can tell us about that and how it comes about, because we see that a lot of times in contests out here.
And it is so quite unique to this break of the peak sweeping. You're right. It's just like...
happens in free surfs.
Yeah, man. I mean, uncles will be way out the back catching these waves before they're even feathering. And you're sitting there with your shortboard about 40 yards in, and they're just sweeping back and forth, eliminating any possibility of anybody else joining them. And you're like, come on, uncle. But
wanted to
peak
go left.
sweeping at Queens, man, it is one of those old-time traditional tricks that you'll see even in competition, you know, even in adaptive surfing competition. We'd like to say a huge mahalo to explore.org. That's one of our portals for your viewing today. What they do is set up cameras around the world filming wildlife.
Whoa.
And, you know, you could, I've got a suggestion here.
What
that
animal are you?
You could check out the bears in Alaska.
What animal are you, Rocky?
I am a squirrel, the flying squirrel.
From Truckee, I go the Eagle Cam. I like the Eagle Cam myself.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites.
All right. Well,
But explore.org, one of our portals here, you can check out online and do the live webcast there and view our action as we see our next athlete getting into the water. Not sure if some of these athletes are going in for a warm-up or for their heat, but amazing the volunteers and the time they put in, the knowledgeable hands that they apply in the shore break here at Waikiki. Not always the easiest place to work with. So having that knowledge, having that commitment, and the strength of those volunteers to get these athletes through the shore break.
Again, taking vacations, taking time off work, they're doing it to build that energy, put that energy into this Access Surf program, because that's what's going to drive this into the future.
Right.
It's that second and third generation that sees other people being humble, being open to that giving, and they're going to come down and really push that in these next few years as the sport grows and, as
we
access surf
have
grows.
opportunities here on Oahu, at White Plains, I believe. It's
Day
is
at
it
the
every
beach.
first Saturday or
First Saturday of every
first
month.
Saturday of every month. Working closely with Wounded Warriors as well. So all of you out there that are on Oahu, if you have a first Saturday to go hang out with these great adaptive surfing athletes and volunteers, and there's a lot of first-timers that show up to go surfing, you know, with their different abilities and challenges that they need access to the water and need some assistance. It's so great to see those come out for the first time and the smiles on their faces after they ride their first wave.
And I encourage everyone that's listening today to contact Access Surf, to participate at a day at the beach. If you're here on vacation, call up. Ask them how you can participate. If it's not a event at White Plains at that day at the beach, that first Saturday of every month,
Right.
it could be another event like Duke's, or it could be another opportunity, a canoe event, or other opportunities to get athletes into the water, to volunteer and to be part of that. Take 2 hours of your vacation, take 4 hours of your vacation, do something with your family that really you can take home and tell the story about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Access Surf, a small Hawaii nonprofit, and we're very grateful for the hundreds of volunteers and sponsors who make this event possible, as well as all of our beach outings. Thank you to Access Surf, and especially all of the volunteers, like you said, John, that take a little bit of time and give back and actually have some great interaction with some pretty cool human beings.
It's just breaking that barrier down rather than that conversation of, ooh, what happened to you? It's, whoa, great wave. And the, ooh, what happened to you conversation, it just kind of ends up like this. And,
Yeah.
you know, they talk about their uncle that had that farm accident. And then you kind of leave that conversation without too much exchanging there other than that kind of
Right.
what happened to you.
Or
you know?
the
Yeah.
inspiration you can take away from it. Very
built-
inspiring, all of these. We're going to take a look at a little heat recap right now as viewing from the rocks here. And we're going to open up with Mirava'a Duarte.
And
And you
Mira
see
just,
her
again,
hair
the cutbacks.
flying around there.
Here's Victoria on her wave that she had behind that peak, looking to get out, a little caught on that edge, work that cut back. Here's the interference here again. Victoria, a little more visibility, a little more timing,
Awareness,
and she
yeah.
would have had that.
And we're going to be back at Waikiki. Stick around for more from the Dukes Ocean Fest. It is the Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships.
Most people have no idea what a credit union is.
We want to change that.
At Hawaii State Federal Credit Union, we're better than a bank.
We're member-owned,
which means better rates and lower fees for everyone.
Plus, over 400 ATMs statewide and 24/7 access on our mobile app.
We are Hawaii State Federal Credit Union.
And we are always right by you.
So when are you going to make the switch?
And thank you for joining us here a beautiful Monday. You can see Diamond Head in the background. This is the Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships presented by Access Surf. all part of the 2018 Dukes Ocean Fest. And we have, thank you for joining us on Surfline. Thank you for joining us on Explore.org. And we're going to have a full day watching our enabled athletes compete here at a legendary break, which is Queen Surf. I'm Kaipo Guerrero, along with Bo Hodge. I'd like to welcome Bo to the booth. A veteran surf announcer for decades, I'm going to say. Bo actually brought me in the game, to tell you the truth. Bo Hodge is here, along with John Davis, and we're having a good time. Both, welcome.
Thank you, Kaipo, and it's great to be back here. Access Surf's been around for about 12 years, and actually been associated with the Dukes Ocean Fest for 11 years. And 11 years ago, it was a one-heat exhibition, and now 11 years later, it's a 3 full-day competition. International surfers from around the world, 80-some athletes coming here. One of the premier adaptive events in the world, and Dukes Ocean Fest has highlighted this event as one of their premier events of the Ocean Fest.
Well, Bo, you've been with this organization for quite a while. I know you've lent a lot of your time volunteering. I know you're very active in the auctions and making sure that you have auction items. How long have you been involved with Access Surf?
About 8 years. Mark Marble challenged me to come out just for one day at the beach. They have every year with the every first Saturday of the month at White Plains, and I was the type of person, you know, like you, Kaipo, you know, time is very valuable when you have a family and work schedules and multi-jobs living here in Hawaii. And all of a sudden I went to one day at the beach and I haven't missed one since. And it's so rewarding. And John, you know, you've been there and you've seen Life Rolls On with Jesse Villar and Chaka's Stoked for Life. I mean, the real core of the people are the volunteers.
They are. We were talking about that earlier. They give their time. They take their vacations. Again, time is money for everyone. We know that. And to donate your time, to volunteer your time, it's the next step into that giving, and it opens you up to opportunities you never thought imaginable.
Yeah. So, you know, this organization that Mark Marble and Rich Julian started 11 years ago has really blossomed into a huge nonprofit organization that has really put adaptive surfing onto the map. In fact, I challenged the ISA to have a world championship, and 3 years ago they started it.
It's very cool. The World Championships has been a growth, a progression for board design, for athletes from around the country, just inspiring them to take that next step into competing or progressing their surfing.
Well, in fact, we have one of our world champions in the water right now, Pirata from Brazil. He won last year's kneeling and standing division in the competition. And I was talking to this other young surfer who's out in the water here, Kaipo, Josh Bogle, from Maui, from Haiku.
Wow.
Only been surfing for 4 months, and he's caught the bug. As anybody knows who goes surfing, they catch that bug, and it's a very addicting.
And John, what is this division? I see it's the kneeling division. So that's the primary stance that we're going to see with the surfers right now?
You got it. We either have double amputees, single amputees in this division a lot of times. Mark Mono Stewart, who's coming up in the next heat, is sort of the ambassador of this division. He's got a lot of great exposure living in Byron Bay. He's friends with a lot of the professionals from that area. Surfing Australia drives a lot of that conversation in Australia. As you guys know, they're very good at communicating their surfing and their surfing champions and those people that really drive the sport. And Mono's really had that.
He shapes and airbrushes Mark Richards surfboards.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's got those connections. So Mark is tied to those sports. These guys are so mobile in the water. They can zip around just as easy as any shortboarder can do.
More than
we have Denmark, Chile, Hawaii, Italy, the mainland U.S., Australia, Denmark, Brazil, all represented here. Germany. Talk about the crew that's coming out here, because this is really an event that has brought a lot of the world together here in Waikiki.
Well, as surfers, as a community, you know, they want to go to the best destinations, and for someone from Switzerland, from Europe, from Brazil, from South America, they want to come to Hawaii. It's a bucket list thing for them, and Access Surf has provided a competition, and in fact, Kara Short from Access Surf is in the beginning plans of possibly putting together a world tour in the future. Maybe 2019, most likely 2020 coming up. So there'll be adaptive events competing for a world title for series of points, just like the WSL, just like other types of leagues and things like that. So hopefully we will see that in the future here.
And John, speaking of 2020, we actually have Olympic ramifications as well, right?
We do 2020 Chiba, Japan. We have that that Olympic and Paralympic conversation started. Dwayne Cale, the new president of the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee. I got to speak with him last year in La Jolla quite a bit. Had him on camera. Really hit the poignant questions to him. Are we going to have wave pools? How is this progressing? Where the adaptive surfers fit into the Paralympic model, and how does this going to work? And he was very forthright and very open. They're looking for those sports that are exciting. They're looking for sports that draw eyes. They're looking for people that are personalities. And every one of these athletes here, they're a personality in and to themselves, not just a competitive surfer, a competitive athlete, or an adaptive athlete, or a person with a disability. Their backstories are amazing as well. So to bring it to the forefront in a Paralympic type of a setting, the exposure gets bigger, the conversation gets bigger, and more eyes get to see it.
A lot of personalities, right, Bo?
Oh, my God. Let me tell you, I've been behind Fernando Aguirre, the personality of the governing body of the ISA, who brought the movement into Thomas Bach, the president of the IOC. And usually every Olympics, they allow 2 new sports. But they threw that out the window coming Tokyo, and they bring in 5 new sports. Why? They want to capture the youth. Not only surfing, skateboarding, rock climbing, baseball, karate are all coming in. Baseball was a former sport in the Olympics, got dropped, coming back, but it has Japan ties with the baseball and the karate. And of course, Japan is the perfect nation to bring surfing. Japan introduced snowboarding in '94. So it's come full circle, and they saw how snowboarding has revolutionized the Olympics. And Fernando Aguirre and Thomas Bach think surfing will bring in that youth, and the skateboarding movement will bring in that youth. Now, these 5 sports coming into Tokyo have to all reapply in Paris in 2024 and Los Angeles 2028. So they're not guaranteed spots, and then thus with an official Olympic sport, surfing is only an exhibition sport coming into Tokyo. They'll have to reapply once they get the official status, and then the Paralympics comes in, John.
And that's what makes that conversation even more poignant for these NGOs and these nonprofits that drive that conversation and bring these athletes in. Trevor from Challenge Athletes Foundation that basically said, you guys need equipment, you guys need travel money to get to any event, we have it for you.
Well,
and
they're right there.
That's
There's
what it
Elena
takes.
Nichols. She is a 2-time gold medalist in women's wheelchair basketball and women's downhill skiing.
Wow.
She is one of the very few athletes in the world to ever double medal in the Summer and Winter Olympic Games. And she is a rock star in the adaptive community.
She is amazing. Being a 2-time Paralympian, 2-time gold medalist in the skiing as well. Strapping yourself into a sit ski and flying down an icy hill with a disability, it's one of the most hair-raising, exhilarating experience you could ever imagine.
I bet.
Putting yourself in harm's way, and to do it with precision, to do it with skill, to do it with the best equipment, and you can't put a price tag on what she's done competitively.
5 years ago, Kaipo, she had never been on a surf ski. She came and competed at this event, and she won.
She adapted that right away.
Because she is that talented of an athlete and respected into the world.
Well, I mean, the skiing aspect blows me away. And John, a former Olympic champ, in that is just, like you said, that is hair-raising. The course gets rutted throughout the day. Of course, the icier the course, the faster it is, but the scarier it is at the same time.
Well, John, correct me. Was it 2 years ago that she had a gnarly wipeout coming downhill?
Sochi, Russia, she took a very bad helicopter off the hill, messed up her face, came back in the giant slalom, almost medaled, kind of came back on that. But it's and that's that competitive thing for these athletes. They already sort of have their disabilities, whatever it may be, and then you're sort of putting yourself out there to injury and, having those physical therapies. And you're kind of always in that cycle of getting back to that peak performance. And when that games come, when the championships are there, the Paralympics are there, you want to be at your peak performance. And it's such a cycle of athletics.
What
and
are the
training?
The Alpine divisions? Is it downhill and GS? Are those the two?
It's all four. You do, and you really can't specialize because the numbers aren't there, like in the able body. I skied all four events. Elena skied all four events: downhill, Super G, giant slalom, and slalom.
Wow.
And you have a whole quiver. You got your equipment. You're dialing your shocks in differently.
Wow.
There's a lot of extra components that go on when you're skiing a full suite of alpine events. Surfing, as we talked about earlier, they're starting to get the short boards, the longer boards, the step-ups. They're starting to travel with more equipment, which allows them to perform on those waves, whichever they occur. And today here, we're waiting for that low tide, waiting for that peak of that swell to come up a little bit. They're probably on their step-up boards for that little extra paddle, that little extra performance.
Any insight into the swell bow that we have going over here?
You know, I drove by Diamond Head, and I saw lines, but they were small lines. At least, I'm speaking ahead of myself. It's been consistent all morning, except for this heat. We haven't seen much of a ride during this heat in this Neal division, Heat 1, Round 1. It's been pretty steady small waves, and that's Queens. That can be Queens here, but then Hector, I saw Josh Moniz get head-high barrels coming out of here, Queens, a week and a half ago.
That's right. Yeah, we've been blessed this summer with a lot of swell, but every once in a while, Queens takes a little breather, right? So the Queen will take a little nap, a little rest, and I think that's what's going on right now. Maybe some morning coffee for the Queen, and then she'll come back in with some ocean love.
Tea time, tea time. And this whole coastline here, as you guys know, looking down those aerial shots down at Threes and Pops and Ala Moana, and it's just an amazing set of waves and opportunity for everyone to come and get whatever type of wave they want. Here at Canoes, you can ride that board straight in, just like the Kings used to do, moving right to left and finding those reefs and step off on the sand and grab your Mai Tai. We have some rides up here. We have this is Parata here from Brazil up and riding. Great cut back. We do have another surfer in white kind of behind him here, and I'm going to keep stressing here, and I'm glad Bozy in the booth was here. We're going to keep stressing that priority rule because the athletes brought it up in the athletes meeting yesterday, and we really stressed it to them, closest to the curl. You know, if you're the one that's you know behind the curl or in front of the curl, really, you know, letting that other surfer have that wave.
Well, here is a situation Bruno Hansen brought up in our athletes meeting yesterday, John. You'll remember that. What if I take off in the whitewater? And I went to Lapo and asked them what we saw in that situation. We saw Massa in the whitewater, and we saw Parata in red on the open face. Parata has priority because he's on the open face scoring potential of this wave. Massa's in the whitewater. Now, if he was to come around, white would be given an interference or triangle if he hindered the scoring potential of red. So that clarification was given to us and to the athletes. The judges don't want to see white there, Massa from Japan, come in and snake. He said he'll be snaking into the wave coming from the back of the whitewater where Parata was in the open face scoring potential where the surfer should be.
All right, thanks for clarifying that, Bo, because that's an important point of contention here when you're talking about wave priority dictated by your position on the wave. Beautiful shot again of our Access Surf tent, and we have so many vendors here at the Dukes Ocean Fest.
There's Candy on the right. They're selling Access Surf t-shirts and hydro flasks and stickers and jewelry and hats and lycras, and all 100% of proceeds here in the merchandising booths go straight to Access Surf to help fund buying new boards, buying new equipment, fins, you know, backup equipment, jerseys, and you know, Access Surf is a nonprofit, and they rely on donations and fundraisers and things like that. And Kaipo, you've been very helpful in the past with us donating with your companies, and we appreciate that. And a couple of times a year. Recently, we just had a fundraiser, I think 3 months ago at Gordon Biersch over at Aloha Tower, and I had signed jerseys and posters from Triple Crown champion Griffin Colapinto that outsold John Florence's signed poster. Someone thought the value of Griffin could be even bigger than John, and I was blown away.
Well, Griffin Colapinto is the first Californian ever to win the Triple Crown of surfing. So he does have a historical asterisk next to his name.
Yes.
So I can see the value there, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we had some great valuable stuff, surfboards and artwork and things like that. And had a very successful fundraiser over at Gordon Biersch. I know the Hard Rock Cafe here in Waikiki is a big supporter of Access Surf. They offer an Access Surf burger where proceeds of that lunch will go to Access Surf. And they sell the designer pins over at the Hard Rock Cafe that proceeds also go into. So a lot of activities there. And you see our volunteers with the adaptive chair. And this has really revolutionized, John, entry and exit out of the water at all locations around the world.
The beach chairs have been, they've gotten better. They've gotten easier to use. The equipment, just to ingress and access, based on that mat, we really only have 10 feet of sand now, really. So that's a nice, easy pull. His wheelchair is waiting. That opening shot that we had, as you can see our open shot here, that's beautiful Queens, and looking down at the Duke statue here and all the amazing people that get to visit Duke statue each and every day and just have that little bit of communing with the Duke, that special individual, and that aloha creed that I know they bring back to wherever they go back in the world as well.
And thanks again to Salt and Air Studios for setting up a camp right here on the beach at Queens and heading this broadcast. Salt and Air Studios. You can watch us on saltandairstudio.com, explorer.org. And thank you to all of our friends over at Surfline who is also streaming this show live. And if you know what? If you enjoy the ocean and you enjoy surfing, make sure you get a premium subscription to Surfline, because that way you can get the long-range forecasts, because that's how I like to plan my week and my month. Live action here.
Here we go, Parata, our ISA current world champion. And Parata can actually stand up on his good leg and surf, but in his surfing style, he's more of a kneeler.
He's more of a kneel. He likes it, I think, better, and he has that better performance, and it's more comfortable for him.
Well, we heard the sound of the horn, so it looks like this first by our world champion.
Exactly, and I think as Kaipo mentioned earlier, Queens took a little breather there. She had a breath, a cup of tea, and a scone, and now she, hopefully the titles shift here, and we'll kind of get that push coming back in. But great heat for the guys. They did the best they could. This view from the water, being an athlete, as you all mentioned, some of these athletes for the first times, seeing Diamond Head is just magical from the water.
It's a magical place. It is a magical wave, and actually the great energy that we're feeling here today at the Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships. It's been a good day so far. We're just beginning. We're going to be back with more from Waikiki. Stick around. It's the Duke's Ocean Fest.
Welcome to the new International Marketplace, an extraordinary shopping experience in the heart of Waikiki. Visit Hawaii's first Saks Fifth Avenue and make unique discoveries as you stroll amidst lush landscapes and a thoughtfully curated collection of stores. Immerse yourself in Hawaiian storytelling and hula. And take dining to a whole new level on the Grand Lanai. Come, be a part of the new International Marketplace.
Welcome back to the Duke's Ocean Fest here at Waikiki Beach. for the Hawaii Adaptive Surfing Championships provided by Access Surf. I'm Rocky Cannon alongside Bo Hodge and John Davis, and we're bringing you the action from heat number 2 of our kneeling division. Mark Mono Stewart in the red jersey from Australia, and we have Llewellyn Sponge Williams from Wales. Wow. And Victoria Phage, we're seeing her for the second time, our Canadian competitor out there in the black.
Yeah, Victoria's competing in both the kneel and the women's sit. In fact, we jockeyed her to have the same jersey, the black jersey, just to sit out in the channel. She had a caddy and a board change, and it's great to see these athletes adapt and surf in multiple divisions. If they can, they will.
And combining male and female, this is something new, I'm sure, for a lot of our viewers out there and a lot of people that watch surf events. It usually doesn't happen. Carissa Moore could most likely beat a lot of the guys on the tour as well on the right day and the right time. You know, there's that. The amount of participants on that women's category, we're just building that up, and Victoria is an ambassador.
Our criteria for this year for Access Surf, if we had 3 or more, they had their division. So we didn't have 3 or more women in the kneel division, so thus they combine into the belt. But next year, if we have 3 or more, we'll have a women's kneel division.
Well, and it's a co-ed division, as we said, and looking at some of our athletes under the tent there, the Access Surf area.
That's Rich Julian in the yellow hat, one of the founders of Access Surf, and there's Spike Kane from Manchester. He lives both in Seattle and down in the San Diego area. We can see Elena Nichols are right behind them, and that's the athletes tent. And John, that's Party Central, isn't it?
That is Morning Central. Kate there, Malia, Richie's beautiful wife and daughter there as well. Good morning to everyone down there. And the athletes tent, that's where a lot of those ideas are exchanged. You know, it's like those board meetings that end up at the happy hour.
Yeah.
You know, you get a lot done at the happy hour, and this is kind of happy hour for the athletes. They get to really enjoy that camaraderie.
But John, this is where athletes brainstorm and come up with ideas that are implemented, correct?
You got it. I saw some boards with that new cork design up on the deck of the boards. No waxing, no good traction. Some of the athletes are trying that out. The step-down rails for better traction, quad fin, tri-fin. You know, just all the fin setup, size of fins. It plays a big part when you're in the water, and your performance benefits when you have the right equipment and you're on the right equipment at the right time for those waves.
I mentioned it earlier. I've been really impressed over the years with the development of the equipment, the creativity, the functionality, and the performance. So all of those things taken into consideration, it's like you said, it's not as much of a think tank as a think tent down there, where they're brainstorming, sharing ideas. Having all kinds of new equipment implemented into the adaptive surfing.
There we see Mosick getting assistance out of the water from the last heat in white. But talking about that equipment, we've got a former world champion and our defending kneel champion right here, Mark Mono Stewart, who is in the design phase of MR Mark Richards surfboards over in Byron Bay, and he's the main airbrusher, and he is Mark's right hand, isn't he?
He's Mark's right hand, and that is that interaction there of these surfers having their heroes as well. I mean, these surfers are adaptive surfers, but their heroes are the Mark Richards, the Kelly Slaters, the Carissa Moores of the world that bring that aloha, bring that choke and stare. They want to do the same maneuvers and have that same opportunity. And that structure is being built for them as they move forward, like you said, with the tent of knowledge.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Rocky, you would appreciate Mark Mono Stewart board. You were ever to see this, he has a dugout hole for his knee, of his amputated knee, that he sticks in there. So the board actually goes down to where he has a scoop inside there. And sometimes he'll wear a fin on his other foot. You know, so he's very creative and he's very dynamic in his board designs, and he's changing it board to board, isn't he, John?
He's changing it board to board, and that's that quiver. Every wave dictates the board you're going to surf, whether it's a longboard wave or a shortboard wave. You have to have different designs. That extra flipper in a shortboard, on a shortboard beach break wave, gets him in early. You got to get in early, especially with you're an adaptive athlete. You don't have time to free fall out of that lip because you got other things to worry about.
Exactly.
So you get in early, so that flipper gives him that extra little bit. I'm sure on more of those beach break, more of those point break waves in Australia, it's a nice, easy takeoff, a defined takeoff zone. You're not moving around a lot, and I'm sure that he doesn't need that extra propulsion as much. But it's just great to see the athletes pushing board design, pushing performance, and continuing that evolution of the sport.
Mono rides his normal board like an Elia board. He'll do the spinners, forwards, reverse, and within that kneeling position, he'll get more barrels than any of us combined.
Yeah, for
He will.
sure. I mean, we talked about it during the sit division too. We almost had a little surfer in the curl. I think, you know, as the day goes on, we may see a little bit more of that swell starting to approach a little bit tomorrow as well with no secret. We've got that hurricane spinning down below and hopefully going to generate some nice swell for us over the next couple days.
I was talking to Mono when he came up on the beach. Let's watch this wave, and I'll tell you about that conversation. But take it away, Rocky.
All right, there's a nice little takeoff there for our surfer in white. That's Llewellyn Sponge Williams. And out of Wales, that's in Great Britain also.
I think
Yeah,
so.
Wales is a surfing nation like Hawaii is in the international surfing world, where they have their own surf team and competing at the ISA Championships. So you'll see England and Scotland and Wales represented, as we have Hawaii and the United States represented.
Correct.
Come the Olympics, John Florence, if he wants to surf in the Olympics, he'll have to wear
Surf
the red,
as
white,
the
and blue.
USA.
And the same with Llewellyn. If the adaptive Paralympics come around in Paris, he'll have to go with Great Britain.
And we've seen that on the WSL side with Kanoe Igarashi and some of the other folks.
Repositioning.
When you have one or two spots, and that's when you get to these competitions like the Paralympics or the Olympics, the pointy end of that competition is very limiting.
Correct.
It's excluding to most everybody except for those very few that can make the cut. And a lot of times you could be the best surfer, an injury will take you out, or missing an event will take you out, and you miss it by 1 point. You know, I mean, there's the best surfers, you have to play the qualification game and meet that criteria each and every day that you're in the water.
And give yourself the best chance to compete. And if you're one of those multi-citizenship holding type of athletes, that only improves your chances for competition. So, you know, for Kanoe Igarashi, good job. Go Japan, brah. Take it.
Here we go, John.
It's an opportunity.
Rocky, coming up in the next heat, Bruno Hansen from Denmark, originally South African with a South African accent, but he lives in a treehouse in Bali.
Wow. Okay.
And he's a world champion. Best. There's a guy that he is a citizen of the world.
Wire was working great.
Yeah.
You have to adapt each and every day you come to the beach.
Commissioner of the WSL. And Mono goes, I was watching the surf this morning. I was timing the intervals. I was watching the waves. I mean, he is a student of the sport, and he was analyzing that, and we were talking about the consistency and the inconsistency. So he's already had his game plan from a couple hours ago.
It's so true, and I can kind of count on one hand a lot of times the amount of athletes that have that type of game, and how you approach it from that respect level, from that history level, from that knowledge level of what you can do and how you can do it in the ocean and the equipment that you need to get it done. Leaning on these guys and having these guys here for the other athletes is invaluable. They can talk story about all different types of crafts that they've tried, or things that they've tried that didn't work.
I can bet you that they're withholding some secrets of competition, but you're right. It is, especially at this break, with this type of somewhat lack of swell, timing is everything, knowing when those sets are going to come in. And here we go. We've got a paddle for some of our competitors, and it is black up and riding. That's Victoria Fage out of Canada. And you see that technique there, trying to get the board into the wave. And a lot of times here at Queens, you don't even need the wave to break to get a little ride, but it does fizzle out quite quickly.
So Rocky, we've seen the last two waves, not dynamic waves, but the longer boards are playing a factor where Mono's got the shorter board, and he's having a bit of a problem as the defending champion getting into the surf. Let's watch Llewellyn here, and he'll opt not for this wave. Not a real breaking wave, but it seems like the guys taking the longer boards have the advantage.
For sure, and Queens can be a little mirage-ish with the rising swell.